make shop life better. Okay, we've already pulled the spark plug. We've loosened the head in a cross pattern. Still has its boring marks on it. You got 6 bolts here on the intake, and 1, 2, 3, 4 that will pull out cross, as well as this hose, water pump. One of my favorite tools, leverage. All 4 of those nuts are loose. And here's your reed valves. They were new. I did them new in 14. Notice this stud is coming out instead of the nut twisting off. So to keep the wrench from getting stuck on there, the box end, we're going to put the cylinder up, pull the stud all the way out. I think we have to pull them out anyway for the new cases. Take this one off and slide it off. I'll spill a little bit of radiator fluid. Stuff is toxic to animals. This is a trick little item from MSV Racing. The 91s don't come with this. They have a little metal band. Recommend you pull the flywheel off when the engine's in the bike. Makes it easier. Countershaft. Bought this cute little thing from Tusk with the vise, piece of pipe. Allows you to go up, break it loose, pull the countershaft off. Next we're going to pull the clutch cover off. It's all 8mm. And then we will pull the water pump cover off. You note you have different lengths. So you can take pictures, mark them. I just put them in separate bins. It's pretty easy to figure out. Also have it shimmed so it doesn't bend the clutch lever, rod and handle, and the crankshaft sticks out below the case on that side. Next we will loosen the bolts on the clutch. I blocked the piston, rubber handle, to pop these loose. Alright, when you take it apart, I'd really recommend you take a lot of pictures if you haven't done this before. This will slide out quite easily along with all the clutch plates. And notice the order. You have a locking washer here that's compressed down on that needs to be removed. And this is actually a new clutch. The whole thing is. Pull the clutch rod out. We could have done that earlier. I'm going to wipe it off. When we inspect it, it needs to be straight and not worn. There's about a 2mm bearing that sits in there. If you don't have it on your 500 and your clutch doesn't pull smoothly, it's because that's missing. Another great tool for taking your clutch apart. Be careful not to break the tines or injure them. A really easy way is to hit it with a an impact wrench without too much torque, and it'll pop it loose where you're not torquing on it. This 27mm. Clutch slides apart, and the basket will just slide directly out. Behind the basket, you're going to visually inspect this to make sure that there's no tines missing, nothing broken, everything's circular. When we pull the manual out, we'll look to see what else. In addition to the splines on the inside. The clutch basket is new, it's a Hinson. But you inspect to make sure this is not notched. Inspect all the teeth on the inside and the outside. Next, we'll pull a water pump cover. Okay, note, longest bolt, 2 shorter ones. Next, we're going to take clutch cover, water pump off, lay it on its side once it's loose, lift it off, then photograph it from many different angles. Throw the bolts marked, little plastic bags. Inspect the edges, make sure there's no wear marks. We'll slide these bearings off next. clutch bearings. Pull off the starter as well as the starter gear, and we'll take the shifting assembly apart. Inspect each roller. Okay, then when it's on, is there any slop? No. It does compress, and it turns smoothly. As well as that, we'll inspect the gear shafts, but that's after we get the tranny apart. Alright, next, I'm going to pull the starter spring, slide the whole assembly out. Looks like this. There is a locking key there as well as a washer on the inside of it. And when you put this together, it has to be lined up. It'll show you in the manual how to line it up, and we'll go over that. We're going to inspect starter gear. If they sell a new shaft, probably buy one. If they show, the manual will probably show to Mike the shaft and the inside. Next, gear comes off. Same thing, inspection. Shift shaft. We'll inspect the tines here, as well as mic it. It's got a seal on this side, and the spring is new. Put that on last time I had it apart. And then we'll pull these bolts and slide the shift assembly out so we can get to the shift drum. There's a sleeve here. One thing to watch is you have through the shift shaft a washer right there. This also, this insert is on the shifting system here. Let's not be losing those. Alright, next we're going to pull the bolt that rotates, holds the lever that rotates around the shift drum. There's a spring on it. There's a washer. I believe the washer is in between the two, but I'll check the schematic. And we'll pop that forward a little bit so it pries out. We'll finish pulling the electrical, then all the case bolts go clear around it, and then we'll split the cases. Don't forget the two bolts down inside. Alright, next we're going to split the cases. After I set this up, I'll heat around the outside of the crankshaft as well as the spline coming out for the countershaft or the drive sprocket. And the key to this is not only do you want it centered, you want this arm as far out as it can be, and it has to be level, which I'll show you in a minute. Or even a little bit of pressure on the outside. The two back two, you can just run the two nuts all underneath all the way in, and they will be the same height. Then you take a measurement, and we're Johnny on it. So we'll tighten the front one. We'll heat up these two areas, and then we'll start to pull it off. Now we're going to work it off gently. Lower this arm about 2.5 turns. Won't force it, just work it up. As the outside of what you see on the case raises higher, we tapped it down, which pops loose the countershaft side of the case. We're going to lift this off gently. There'll be a washer under here and under this. Under both gears there will be a washer up against the case. We want to make sure that we don't lose those. Cases are split. I'm going to pull this sleeve off. Right? Put it in the plastic bag that has those parts. This sleeve. Pull the rods out and inspect those. Both rods. That rod's bent. Here we go with the gears. Start with the washer. Turn them over so back on like this. Washer on here and on the other side. Taking the gears off, swinging them over. You got to watch for these sleeves that go inside the gears. They will fall out on you. Also the shift forks, that whole assembly will pull out right about now. There we go. Okay, 5 center, 5L, and the other one 5R. Don't mic all those, check all those. Pull the shaft out, push through the backside. That should be tighter than that. And we'll reassemble it. Same with the other shaft. Alright, pulling the counter shaft out. Reassembling it. There's a sleeve right here. Make sure you get the gears on the same way. There's washers on the outside, specific size washers. We bungee them together. Crank, shift drum. In addition to miking everything the manual says, you do a visual inspection of the gears. It's really slowly. You can even get a loop out if you suspect any cracks. Look for cracks, chipped teeth, worn teeth, etc. This has a picture of the 2 gear assemblies. Why they do it in reverse baffles me. This is actually the left side of the engine and this is the right side of the engine.
Your social life.